Okay. Sorry, I had to take a couple days. Man, I cannot believe how much health that I'm recovering. Ever since I started running at the store while doing the Instacart thing, it's brought back a lot of energy. And so now I'm able to endure longer days, basically longer work days, which is pretty amazing. So I've made $700 in the last 4 days. Um, I only worked a little bit today. I had to do some cleaning, and because roommate's coming home tomorrow, I wanted to make the place look a little bit better than the last time he came home. Uh, Usually, what I do is I kind of let it. Uh, I build up for like a day or two, and then I just take everything out at once. But it's time to start just keeping track of that every day, making that the habit, just so that way I don't have to think about it anymore. And it's making things look much better. So, um, but anywho, I'm working on an essay right now. So I think I'm finally at a point now where I'm ready to start kind of branching out. Um, and for the people who kind of just see me early on and are interested in what I'm doing, um, maybe consider them like investors. Because the idea is I want to create all this content because I like the idea that I can teach basically for free. Um, and it costs me nothing to do this, besides any time that I could use maybe for making money, but I can make money during the day. So if I do this at night when I'm stuck at home anyways, because I have to do my dialysis anyways, then this costs me absolutely nothing, and it's just like pure profit. So just because it's getting me to do the things that I want to do on the time that I want to do, without having to worry about uh, rules and all that stuff. Or besides, I mean, obviously, there are certain things I won't be able to say, just because of the way the platform works. But like, if it's out of a textbook, there shouldn't be anything controversial. There shouldn't be anything. I mean, this is literally stuff that, I mean, except for maybe like the Crystal Bible, and the actual Bible, they probably don't just go through that word for word, um, except in like rigorous history classes or something. But like, these are literal textbooks with pretty up to date information, even considering like a lot of the social stuff. Um, so these books were written in the not long ago. So um, yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about that. So um, now that I've gotten the work down to more of a habit, uh, I'm noticing I'm not as tired as often. Last night I decided to go to bed early because I wanted to try to get up earlier. Um, I was at Fred Meyer at 6 o'clock this morning, which is when they open, which is when Instacart starts, and I had my breakfast, and I was ready to start working. I think I started my first order at 6:45 this morning. Um, I figure 7 o'clock is when the first checker shows up. So if there's any bigger orders, I'll wait until like 6:30, 6:45, and then just take my time shopping. So that way, when I'm done shopping, the cashier's ready to go. Because the bigger orders, the self checkout, it's too hard. I tried doing it with like a 20 item order a couple months ago, and just because the way it works, it's designed so poorly. You have to wait until, so you scan the item, and then you put it on the conveyor belt, and then the conveyor belt has to pass it through a scanner before you can scan the next item. Because if you scan the next item before that little scanner thing, on the conveyor, uh, registers the item, then it screws it up and then sends the other item back and unscans it. So then you have to rescan that first item, and it's a pain in the butt. And then you have to go bag it. I just don't want to do that. So I figure if I can get my breakfast gulped down within the first like 30 minutes of the day, 6 o'clock, 6:30, 6 to 6:30, and then start working from right then, I could probably make $300 to $400 a day, depending on how consistent the day is. I need to be a little bit more open to driving a little bit further, I think. But since I know where all the locations are for the different Fred Meyers and the Safeways, and or basically all the stores that I would be willing to shop at, since I know where they're all at relative to each other now on a map, when I look at the order real quick before accepting it, I can see where the final delivery is. And if it's further away from the store that I'm shopping at, because ideally I'd like to circle back and go right back to the Fred Meyer I'm at because it's a mile from the house. But if like there is an order that takes me to say the Salmon Creek location, then I'd say, and if it's a decent price, obviously, if it's like a $15 order and it takes me out to Salmon Creek, no, I'm not going to do it. But if it's like 22 to 25 bucks and it takes me out to Salmon Creek and it hasn't been very busy at the Fred Meyer I live by, then it's like, oh, well, shoot, maybe I'll get another order over at that location. And that actually, usually when I do that, that ends up being what happens. I'll drive out that way and then I'll get an order that heads back towards the Fred Meyer I want to be at. So I'll have like the main base of operations be the Fred Meyer by my house, but I should be able to expand out and still make good money and not go through a crazy amount of gas by doing it that way. So but yeah, so I made 233 yesterday with only 7 active hours while waiting maybe 3 hours. So I was out for 10, but I technically have like about 14 to 15 hours of time that I can spend out per day. Because I don't have to do my dialysis at the same time. I can move it around, but as long as I get started with my with it by I think like 8:30, that'll get me finished by around 5:30 in the morning, which gives me just a few minutes I need to get up. So I don't need coffee to wake up. I actually just drink coffee for the taste, but that'll get me in. I'll get to Freddy's by 6, grab my breakfast, get the day started. And then what I need to do though is I need to start being more proficient in what I'm doing in the wait time between orders. Because normally the issue is I turn myself off from certain ideas because of the way things happen. So I try to bring my laptop in, but the problem with that is with the laptop it's bulky and I don't really have a case for it. So I may have to just start doing my iPad, which is good because that'll get me the more hands-on stuff. Really, the computer stuff should be done here at home anyways. But I have projects that I can do with that. So I want to learn how to draw. I want to transcribe the Bible digitally. So I have things that I can be doing. I also have the essay that I'm working on. Right now I'm on the outline portion of it. Basically what I want to do is I want to sort of, I need to have a title that kind of piques interest. This is all like English 101 stuff, but the way I read, like a title will immerse me in an idea as much as a paragraph will, because my imagination sometimes I just let run wild. But so a good header would be good, and then obviously a brief introduction into myself, which I think should just be focused on the things that I've learned, the things that I've developed over the years. So for example, I guess I can just go ahead and just do a brief little talk on this because this is pretty important to me. This has been a work in progress for a long time. I've always wanted to have my own business, but I never really had a platform to do it. And I just never really cared. Money's always been a complicated thing for me. because part of me hates the idea of money, but part of me also sees the utility in it. Money acts in a way as like a way of storing energy exerted for a later use, and so um, instead of like trading labor for food or trading labor for something that you need done right away or something that I need done right away, like having cash or having a like a bank account with money in it, or I guess a non-zero dollar amount, um, positive non-zero amount, helps, I guess, catalyze the um, I guess I don't know how you would describe that. Instead of having to learn how to like sew materials together in order to make my own clothes, and having to dedicate the time to that, I can just dedicate the time to earning this item, which we call money, and then using that to pay someone who already knows how to do it to make me something. Or in our case, with corporate America, it's already pre-made. So, but yeah, developing skills. So when I was younger, I think the biggest thing was I kind of had to create creative minds. Like I was open to trying different things and stuff. Um, but I was also like really socially awkward, and I didn't know how to have a conversation with somebody, and that just made it really weird. And I would just say stupid things, and I still cringe at some of the things that we have on the camcorder. Gosh, I don't know how. I don't know how I ended up learning how to socialize. Well, obviously I do, but um, I think I was just born a natural scientist because my parents lacked uh, certain. They lacked to teach me certain things growing up because they themselves didn't really understand, um, and they were kind of mixed up with their own vices and mental illnesses, and different things like that. So in order to quote survive, which as a child in America, survival is getting good grades in school, at least in a like an urban environment. It's probably a little different in more rural or more like wild-ish environment. But for me, it was making sure I understood at least the base, the foundations behind like the things we were learning in school and stuff. So I always did well in math. I always did well in like science and stuff, but I didn't care to memorize anything. I didn't really care to do any of the homework, and so I always had like 100 missing assignments per semester. But I didn't care because like it wasn't helping me with anything. Like it didn't teach me anything. What taught me was the patterns. Like I saw the patterns, and that's kind of the fun that I had with it. That's why I liked the little bits here and there. I ended up graduating high school with a 2.2 GPA, I believe. It's just C averages because I didn't care. Then there was no reason for me to care because like the way things were taught, like yeah, the professors, a lot of the teachers actually really liked the stuff that they did. Like Mr. Grote was pretty amazing. Mr. Fred's pretty amazing. Um, they had ways of immersing the classroom that some of the other teachers didn't. Um, but and I mean, it's the same with college too. College is a little bit worse just because some of the professors really just didn't care. Um, but I always got along with them all because I knew that I didn't really need the professor or the teachers to learn the material because the material was already like in the books and stuff. So, but yeah, so social, I learned that. I think middle school was when I started making some pretty good lifelong friends, um, which I still have to this day. I still talk to some of them. Um, and then I was a fat little kid until middle school when I had my growth spurt and reached my maximum height in 6th grade. So still as tall as I am then, but it doesn't really matter because it didn't really hinder me in any way. Um, I was pretty skinny though. Once I did that, I went from 100 pounds around I think the second and third grade. I was a pretty fat kid, which is funny because I actually did have a friend that was bigger than me. But anyway, so yeah, I was about 100 pounds, and then sixth grade, 100 pounds. But I had my growth spurt, hit 5'6", so I ended up being pretty tall for that age, and pretty slim. And then let's see, anything else in middle school? Not really. I learned some coordination, I guess. Played wall ball. I took PE pretty seriously. It actually got pretty quick. Um, but then in high school, that's when I did my first official sport. And that's actually like one of the things that I committed to more long term. I did football, I did track, I played offensive line, and then I did shot put and discus. Um, but those ended up developing skills that I didn't really realize I could use later in life, and um, which right now I'm a coach, but uh, I'm actually planning on throwing again, even with the hernia and stuff. I found ways to minimize the risk, minimize the muscle use in the core area, and still kind of develop technique and stuff. So I can at least develop my technique until I'm able to get the hernia fixed, and then actually start throwing with an implement and starting to put a little oomph behind it. But I think actually without uh, any strength training or anything, I think I could actually throw further than I could in high school now. Um, but I progressed decently there. Actually, ended up making varsity for football my junior year, and then I played a few games senior year. But I got hit with the swine flu, and that knocked me out for a month. And when I came back, it just kind of I just wasn't I just was weak. I just could not. Honestly, it felt like what the COVID pandemic was described as. Like I felt like that's what I had when I was 18. I guess I was 17 at the time. But football I really liked a lot, but I hated the idea afterwards. Like, because honestly, it's like going from football to track, because that's what I switched between. It's like violent sport and like the most non-violent sport, and competitive against other people versus competitive against myself. And so I got really the best of both worlds out of that. But I like track a lot more just because I can do that on my own time. Whereas football is just, you really do have to follow the schedule because it's also a form of entertainment. Whereas track, it's been around for a long time. So, but I developed leadership skills in a way through that. Also developed workout skills. So I went from my sophomore year. So I made my biggest physical change between the summer between sophomore and junior year. I bulked up like crazy. I went from 140 pounds to I think like 210 or 220 pounds, somewhere in that range. I don't remember exact numbers. I talk about these stories all the time because I just think it's so interesting how a person can change so quickly, especially when that person was myself, because I did that. But I took the weights pretty seriously, and I took the Taco Bell pretty seriously, and I ended up bumping my caloric intake to about 10,000, probably about 10,000 calories a day. But my workouts were all just whatever the sport did. And so during off season, I would gain weight. During on season, I would lose weight. And I still remember my senior year. I think I might have mentioned it, but just keeping in order of what I've been talking about for the past few minutes. I had lost over 50 pounds in a single track season as a thrower, which is nuts because as a thrower, like throwers are notorious for eating like crazy. But I did strength and endurance training. And so I would do hours of endurance exercises every day, plus hours of strength and sprint training. Like throwing is basically a sprint of the upper body and the lower body in a sort of combined way. And so I think I developed more, instead of a muscle strength or muscle endurance, it was like more like optimized muscle, that my muscle could do both. It could have the fast twitch mixed with the ability to just keep doing repetition after repetition after repetition, which the example of that would be when I trained with Coach Lewis for a day. It was during our district training for track. I was one of the 2 boy throwers, and I think there were 2 girl throwers who made it to districts. And we finished our training. Usually the others were done within like half an hour to an hour. And so after we were done, I decided to go over to the pole vault ring. And Lewis, he was just like, "What are you doing over here? Like, get away, thrower." But he decided to let me play around with one of the poles, and he taught me the technique at half with the hands at the midpoint of the pole, so the pole didn't bend at all. And he just told me to plant it into the ground and just keep doing that over and over again. And as I'd show him, he'd be like, "Oh, wow." And so he would just have me raise my hand grip. And then eventually he had me just kind of, I don't know what the term is, but I'll just say drive, but basically plant the pole into the pit and just practice basically pole vault or vaulting onto the mat. And so then he started upping the weight of the poles because I was starting to bend them more and more. And then eventually I got to my weight, and from what he said, I was clearing 9 feet on that day. And so he tried to get me into the JV district meet, because the way our JV districts is, so the JV is junior varsity, and that's going to be the guys who didn't make varsity but are still on the team, and they're basically like pre-varsity. They're training to make varsity. That's the point of it. So, but they get to compete and get to experience what the varsity guys get to do. But usually they don't place or anything. But the JV invitationals, or so the way the division works is the top 8 people for each event throughout the season get to go to the district meet, and then the winner of the JV district meet gets to be the 9th seed for the district meet. And so he thought that I would be able to win the JV districts and actually get potentially place in the district meet. And so he thought that would be really fun, good opportunity. But Coach Donovan was like, no, not going to happen. You're a thrower. You're only going to throw. So, but still, though, it was kind of fun. I had a good time doing that. But I'm not sure where I was going with that, though. But I think that's really what taught me that I didn't really realize it, but I'm pretty adaptable. I'm flexible. And right now I'm in a state where I'm still building that up again, because for many years, for over a decade, I let it sort of degrade. And I completely forgot myself. I forgot that whole aspect of my life until I lost the weight and started pushing myself again. But that's another reason why I'm doing this whole project, is because I want people to understand that there are choices that we can make in order to better ourselves without needing someone in our immediate vicinity to be telling us what to do. Is the problem with other people is they do not have, like for me, from my perspective, they do not have my eyes, they do not have my ears, they don't have my experiences. But the one thing that everyone does share is feeling. And I might not understand how someone came up to a certain reason why they do something, but I can understand why they feel the way they do when they do it. Because I know, like I've embraced my emotions at this point. I used to think emotions were just some stupid accident that um, makes a person weaker, but really they act as a guide. And when my intuition um, and my emotions kind of work together, that's usually when I'm motivated to, move forward and find a way to make things happen in a more forward and easier way like that. So, um, honestly, my childhood was very fortunate. I'm very lucky that one, I have a family that cares about family. I see a lot. There's a lot of people who just. I still remember like high school. I remember people being upset that their parents would ground them for like drinking alcohol or like just partying and tearing things up and breaking things. And it's like I get it. I get the parental aspect now because after my kidneys failed, I had to learn how to basically take care of myself because I wasn't taking care of myself. That's why my kidneys failed in the first place. But but yeah, high school I learned some leadership skills, but only toward things that I found enjoyable, things that I immersed myself in, and that makes sense though because the more time you put into things, the more the body adapts to the things that the body is doing, that and the mind is doing, and so like with track, like I had such a good time because uh, my body was so used to it. It was just like falling in its natural state, its lowest energy state was actually doing high energy stuff, like running a lot, sprinting a lot, doing things like that. But um, yeah, and then after that, I had a breakdown after high school, and because I didn't realize how shitty the adult life was. Like every person I ever worked with hated the job that they worked. I always try to find ways to make it fun, but I always just wanted to go home and play the video games because at least the video games seemed to have meaning. Like I could immerse myself in that, but I could never immerse myself in work because everything that I did just seemed like it was for things that were unnecessary. And then I took a pretty hard stance on politics, um, and even limited myself even further that way. Still had friends that were on the opposite political spectrum because like I just found a lot of the ideas humorous, and so it just cracked me up. Um, Seeing the anger that people would get, because it never made me angry that people thought different things, but like the issue is I took government sources and I took scientific sources as like God, and so I didn't realize that the communities, those communities, could be wrong about stuff. Um, and so I kind of trapped myself in this like endless loop of, I guess, trolling in a way. I guess I existed as a troll because I still did things that were productive that I needed to get done, like going to school and like at least trying to progress myself further in the way that I thought would be best. But um, my health declined and I just was not living right. I made some good friends and stuff, but I was living a pretty shallow life and not taking advantage of my fullest potential, I guess. And that's really what the last 2 years has been the realization that a lot of things that I've done were beneficial to me, but not in the ways that I wanted them to be when I was doing them. So, like, my schooling was for a career, but now I realize that my schooling has actually been useful for helping me realize, the truth about myself and about the world around me, at least from my perspective, and that I can use my perspective as a pretty good model as long as I build a good foundation in order to, design my future, and then basically plan my future, and then just try to follow it as best as I can. So, but I think, oh man, I really didn't talk a lot about my college and stuff. That maybe I'll save that for another time. But really, I guess what I wanted to say was that the different aspects that have really shaped me, plus the ability to weigh different perspectives on the same topics. So instead of looking at things from one perspective, I can look at them from many perspectives, because I myself have held different perspectives on many things, because I've been wrong about many things. And obviously, I'll still be wrong about many things, but the best thing I can do is refine the things I've been wrong about, and find ways to incorporate them to make sense of, my reality, and then the reality that seems to be portrayed around me. So that's why I want to read a lot of this stuff. Once I get through all these intro books, then I can start really talking about them, because there are so many ways of breaking these things down into just so much simpler stuff. That's the thing I hate about. That's the one thing I hate about the whole elitist mindset, the mindset that I used to be in, and I still struggle with sometimes, is that it makes most of the elitist mindset comes for the wrong reasons. Like, being an elite doesn't come from having a degree. It comes from being able to explain things to people and having them understand it, and not only the way you understand it, but in the way that they can understand it. Because if I'm going to explain it in the way I understand it, I'm going to know that there are people who have had completely opposite experiences as me throughout their lives that will lead them to conclusions to the opposite of what I'm claiming. So, but really the best way, I think, is to demonstrate. And so the ultimate goal of this is to turn all of these ideas into visuals, into something that can be demonstrated with basically a human body. Like, can I create an experiment that emphasizes a certain chemical concept? Yes, I can. How about dilution? Or how about like reaction types? So in the chemistry, I was talking about different types of reactions. Well, those reactions really don't mean anything unless they can be applied to larger scale things. But the problem is any example that's going to be mentioned in a textbook is usually going to have some sort of industrial backing. It's going to be backed by something that's extremely profitable, or something that a big industry is going to do, because it's going to show how big scale we can make certain like reactions happen. And so I was thinking that I really want to try taking lemonade. So I'm going to take there's a brand called Simply, and they have a lemonade, Simply Lemonade. And what I want to do is take 9 bottles, or maybe I could use the smaller bottles and just do 1 tea bag each or something like that. But or not 1 tea bag each, but I was thinking of having 3 different trials. So I'll have 9 different bottles of this lemonade, and I want to put green tea bags in the lemonade in the fridge, and see if I can make a cold brew green tea lemonade without needing water or anything. So But the idea is what happens is when you put two different substances together like that, so like a solid and a liquid like that, what's going to happen is it creates an interface um, where stuff from the solid will leach out into the liquid, but that'll also cause some of the liquid to leach into the solid, and so you get a sort of, in a way, double displacement reaction, where you get, say, green tea plus lemonade, so in their pure forms, and you mix them together, and then you're going to get some mixture. You're going to have green tea lemonade mixture with the green tea lemonade particles kind of floating around. I just think that's interesting. That's such a cool way of describing a really complicated chemical concept. If you go down to the atomic scale, because I've tutored and I've taught, and people really do struggle with some of these ideas, because it's like taking math and transforming all of the numbers into letters, and then trying to add letters together and stuff. And for some people, that's just it's not something that comes naturally, which makes sense. So, but yeah, I just want to do experiments. I want to demonstrate different ways of thinking about the same ideas, and then just kind of bringing things together, and then having a sort of free platform for anyone who's just trying to figure things out. Hop on in, ask me some questions if you want to, and then also I do want to start a tutoring service. I still haven't quite figured that out completely yet. Part of me is against charging people, but part of me also wants to, make a little bit of money off of it, to kind of, because the idea is I want to invest. I want to invest in myself and then see where those investments can take, like some of the ideas that I have. So I have some big ideas that are pretty extreme and seem unfathomable, but obviously there were people who have done many of these things, so I know it's possible. But there's also little things that I want to do too. So just once I get my finances sort of squared away, and I got my work schedule completely habituated, where I literally wake up, go do it, basically on autopilot, and then I come back and kind of do the conscious work, the reading and stuff, and then just kind of get that to being my daily habit, at least for the next couple of years. And then kind of building social media or using social media platforms to expand basically the content, and then who I'm able to communicate with. And then I'm thinking, once I get there, then I'll probably have a good amount of money. I want to invest in a good gaming laptop. I'm thinking just top of the line, something with one of the 4 series RTX graphics cards, and then doing some gaming and programming and other sorts of stuff with that. So that will be in the future, probably not until like Christmas time, around the holidays. That's probably when I'll get a bulk amount of work. That's probably when I'll get my finances completely resolved and all my debts paid off and stuff. So once I have my debts paid off, then that'll make it, that'll give me pretty much all the time in the world to do the things that need to be done. So and then the animation thing, because I want to get into animation. That'll probably be a good time to start learning how to animate, maybe get some animation software, and just start working on drawings. Um, and then, because what I want to do is I want to like create the universes for all the fictions that I enjoy from my perspective. And I'm not sure how that's going to look yet, but that is what the future holds, I believe. So that's what I'm going to keep pushing for. So my goal for the rest of this week is to demonstrate that I can make $1,000 in a week. I'm at 700 already. I still have 2 more days. Saturday, so tomorrow and then Sunday. And then I'd like to finish the chemistry book. And I think that's going to be the two things I do right now. So, all right. I'm on drain cycle, so I'm going to go lay down for a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and do some readings. So this is just kind of a random talk about stuff. I didn't get everything. I didn't say everything that I wanted to say for the kind of my upbringing and stuff, but I think that's just good to get off my chest. We'll call this my um, monologue. Monologue one, manologue.